And we're live.
Welcome.
Hey everyone, I have a special guest for you, my friend Phil. Welcome to the channel, Phil.
Hey man. And also just a brief introduction.
Yeah.
Because founded the Brothers Around the Campfire, which you know, and it's basically a group of men that really want to, like, one of the main things is that we really want to get to the root of all of this, what we're dealing with here, and also build the strength to face the demons that we have with this, which I in general find very admirable about the entire community, not just the brothers around the campfire, but everyone, because I really like that there's like this entire community that accepts that they have a problem, because we all know the people that they don't want to accept that they have a problem, but those guys, they accept it, and even more, they want to face it and deal with it and make the best of it. And
I've heard comments. Yeah, it's like the porn-free, porn addiction recovery, no FAP, semen retention communities are one of the most positive and uplifting communities on the internet.
Yes.
Yeah, the internet is filled with lots of
very
negative energy, hateful, but these communities are one of the most uplifting kind of communities, especially like communities of brotherhood.
Exactly.
And it takes courage to admit we have a problem and then to face it. Yeah.
And which is actually, for most, I think in the beginning at least, is probably one of the most important or most difficult steps. And the way I look at it is that, like, none of us are asked to be addicted. Like, we all fell into this trap in a way. And this is also one of the big reasons why I give away a lot of my stuff for free, because just to help with this and to as many people as possible, because we all know that there are so many guys that face this and don't really know what to do about it necessarily. And that's also why I have this, like, I teach basically everything by the entire system, everything I know, for free. Even like on my website, there's a free course where you learn everything from the very beginning to the very end. And it's linked in the
link down below to your program. And just for everyone watching, Phil's been working on this program for several years, and it's free, and we're doing this live stream just I'm not getting like an affiliate from this. I'm just doing to support a friend, and I really believe in. I've reviewed Phil's program, and it's great content, and he's just trying to genuinely help people. And it's lots of people out there selling porn addiction programs for like $500.
Yeah, true.
And your program, and it's everyone's got to do what they got to do. But that you have a great program and you're offering it for free, and you've been working on this for years. It's extremely admirable. So can you tell us more about how about we start with just for everyone, make sure to check out the link down below. But Phil, can you tell us more about your journey? So you used to be a pretty big porn addict, and you had some pretty big symptoms of porn addiction. Can you tell us where you were, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and then talk about, the symptoms you had, and then share your journey, and then share where you are now? And do you consider yourself healed from porn now?
Yes. And my story doesn't actually start directly with the addiction, but rather my first problem, like the big painful problem for me, was the social anxiety. Like, I had intense social anxiety to the point where I literally was unable to talk to my own grandma. Meaning, like, if you picture the most unfrightening person or unscary person in the world, it's probably your own little grandma that just wants to eat your sweets or something. But even when I was talking to her, I had like this lump in my throat and the anxiety in my body and stuff.
Wow.
And I mean, and you can imagine if I was with her like this, how I was in school, talking to girls and stuff like this was no way, no, not even thinkable. And but it was extremely painful, and I really wanted to get out of this. And this, like, I started reading about psychology and getting into all this stuff very, very, like, in my teenage years already. And I think around when I was 18, roughly when I was 18, 19, I stumbled upon like a very, very powerful meditation techniques that really helped me deal with these intense emotions and work through them and stuff like this. And actually getting more out there, being more calm and present with people and all this stuff. And so basically and it helped me so much that I basically got addicted to practicing this and doing this all the time. And so I would say for many years, actually, I practiced these meditation techniques for like at least an hour. And
Gotcha. Well,
so and it really helped me like move out, get out, and
so
just
starting around 19 years old.
exactly, like connecting.
And
with
how old are you now?
31.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you don't strike me at all as someone who's had severe anxiety in the past where you're so afraid to talk to your grandma. So your transformation has been extreme.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to imagine a 19-year-old Phil too afraid to talk to his grandma.
It's been
So it shows all the work you've put in. Yeah.
It's been a long way though, yeah. And where was I?
So you were doing these meditation techniques for about an hour a day.
Basically got addicted to practicing the meditation and stuff.
Yeah.
And but I didn't think of PMO at this point as bad, because society still to this day tells us like it's totally fine, normal, and no worries about it and stuff like this. Until of course I again stumbled upon the Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson, may he rest in peace. And,
yeah.
So, and it made total sense to me, and I got to work immediately. This was one of those videos where you watch it and you know there's something important happening here. And so for me, then of course I got into the community, learned what they had to say, and tried the usual stuff in a way, like the cold showers, the filters, all this stuff, but still struggled at first. And like this, but this was by the way, this was like 6 years later. So when I found this when I was 25, and
gotcha. And 18 through 25, you're looking at porn regularly.
And increasing, like, in spending more and more time every night, each night, and escalating in fetishes and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So then you started finding these Gary Wilson, Your Brain on Porn, and for everyone who didn't see it, he actually passed away a couple days ago. So yeah, rest in peace. He's kind of the godfather of this whole porn-free movement.
Started everything basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I struggled quite a bit in the beginning. Until then, I kind of remembered like, okay, back in the day, like 6 years ago, I really had to really work through intense emotions as well. I used these techniques and stuff like this, and then I think I don't have anything to lose. I just try this on the same, on the urges and everything that comes up when you're actually doing this. And luckily for me, it worked like a charm. Like, it really worked. But I mean, of course, at this point I had 6 years of intense practice under my belt. So I just had to switch gears basically, went into it, and it worked really, really good. And
amazing.
That's all. And do I consider myself healed? I would say this with a resounding yes, because I don't really like this notion of once an addict, always an addict. Because if you, and this is what we mentioned in the beginning, like, if you really get to the root of this and learn like what kinds of patterns create these problems, the mental patterns, the emotional patterns, the behavioral patterns, how these work together, all these processes, how they lead to addiction, and you'll learn to heal them, learn to maneuver through them and stuff like this. Then you know what to do to stay clean easily. And actually turns out, and we're going to get into why that is and how these components work together. it actually feels easy and natural in a way that you do not need to fear that the addiction may come back and overwhelm you all of a sudden again. And that's when I think that you can consider yourself healed. Like I'm not scared at all anymore that it comes back. Like I had very intense.
When's the last time you had a relapse or gave in?
With 25.
When you were 25 years old.
Yeah.
So you've been clean for 6 years.
And closing in on 7 years this year. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
So it worked.
For being a porn addict for several years, you did this, it worked, and you've been clean for almost 7 years, and it's never come back.
And that's
amazing.
Yeah, and that's really like why I want to carry this out in the world, because it's helped me on so many levels, and it helps just makes my life so much better. And again, like it's all for free. So that's why we're doing this.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Have you ever? Yeah. So, and you've had to consistently do these meditation practice. Have you ever like not been consistent for like a week or two, and then maybe felt some urges coming back? Or this is hard. As people know my journey, I've had good streaks, but it's every blue moon I've had a relapse, unfortunately. I've had amazing streaks, but I feel like I'm like 99% healed, but I haven't reached that point where it's been like a really, like, I feel like I've got this 100% down, but it feels like you're one of the rare people I know who's had an addiction and has maybe reached that mythical, like 100%, that you've got this handled.
I think like the like, I would say like once a year I get some urges for some reason. And that is like actually this year was the last time where like when like I don't meditate as much anymore regularly, but the thing, or when it actually becomes dangerous, I would say, is when a lot of like stuff gets piled, like a lot of bad things happen all at once. And I mean, this year was a pretty intense year. We had in the family, we had some like a surprising death, for example, and then I got the virus and everything, and like lots of stuff happening all at once. And that's just when things get very difficult. But I always I know this. I've been doing this for so long. At this point, like I can feel stuff coming when it's still very, very small. So it's still very easy to work through it.
Yeah.
And I know, like, when I feel really bad or down or something, then I can just look back and know, okay, this is why, and because if we did this and then whatever, and then I just can readjust a couple things, and it's back in no time.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Because the awareness has grown so much.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so you've been working for several years to share these meditation techniques and all these strategies and insights that you've learned over the last several years. Do you want to go into those kind of principles or tenets of your program and community? Yeah. And let's just go into some practical knowledge. Yeah. So for the people tuned in right now, I'm sure they'd love to hear what exactly is the meditation or your philosophy behind it. And, let's jump right into it.
There's like, it's a super complex system, so there's lots to talk about. But I think where you can start is what we already mentioned a couple of times, like really getting to the root of this, and like this, like the main principle, I would say. There are others as well, but this is one of the main ones. And again, because you wanna get to a point where you never need to fear of it coming, like the addiction coming back again. And over the years, I learned way more stuff that other than just the meditation techniques. Like in the course, for example, there's even more stuff in there than what I had back then. And the system that makes the most sense and works the best so far is that there are basically like three main components that play together. I mean, again, like there are many more components and many more processes, but if you want to really break it down and simplify it for this video, you can think of it as three main things, and that is that first you have accumulated and unprocessed pain in your subconscious mind, and you can think of it as trauma. Like the quick and easy definition of trauma basically is unprocessed and accumulated pain in your subconscious mind. And the way we think about trauma usually is like the Hollywood type PTSD war veteran that has these kinds of flashbacks and suddenly thinks he's back in the war zone or something, meaning that we think of it as like one massive event that was way too overwhelming, way too painful, way too difficult, and we kind of repressed it, didn't want to deal with it, weren't able to deal with it, and now it's stuck in our subconscious mind, somehow still influencing us and doing its thing and from the shadows, basically. And but the more and more, like that's one version of trauma, basically. But more and more research shows that there's also something called CPTSD, like the war veteran, the Hollywood war veteran that we know of, that's PTSD. And then there's CPTSD, meaning complex trauma. And what that means basically is that there is not just this one massive thing that happens and overwhelms us, but every now and then, or not just every now, but like every day, basically, because it's a natural, normal process. Like every one of us has these accumulated pains and unprocessed pains in the subconscious. And like if we just every now and then repress some anger over there, repress some fear over here, and just I don't want to deal with it right now, and rather flip on my phone or play some video games or something. This gets pushed into our subconscious mind and accumulates, just very tiny ones every single day, just a little bit here, a little bit there. And all of a sudden, once it reaches this critical mass, then what happens is that your subconscious mind monitors your environment the entire time, everything. Like it processes way more information than our conscious mind. With our conscious mind, we just have like a couple bits of information that we can juggle at any moment. And the subconscious mind like keeps track of your surroundings, the temperature, the weight of your, like feels the weight of your weight, the weight of you on your chair, basically. Monitors everything, digests your food, all this stuff. And it notices the entire time that there's this critical mass of pain, of danger in a way that is here. And if it's too much and for too long, then it triggers the survival responses. Like we all know when we have this general thing where the saber-toothed tiger jumps out in front of us and we get into fight or flight mode. But it still, the same happens when we have too much accumulated pain and unprocessed pain in our subconscious. Meaning that it constantly perceives a threat or threats in our environment. So we are constantly stuck in the fight, the flight, the freeze, and the fawn response. Like most of us, we know the fight and flight, but there are also two more, the freeze and the fawn response.
Gotcha.
These are the survival responses, which basically mean, if you really simplify it, basically mean that your nervous system is super amped up and in emergency mode all the time. And
so it's like you go to the grocery store or you visit your grandma and you feel like a tiger is going to jump out and eat you, just doing everyday normal things.
Even if you talk to your sweet little grandma, it's still like in high alert mode. I mean, especially if we have anxiety and stuff like this, we can relate probably. And the the problem is that this is in emergency mode for just very short periods of time where you have high energy exertion, and then you're supposed to go back into a more relaxed, regenerative, building energy, like regenerating energy, digesting food, sleeping mode. And like all this stuff comes like when we're stuck in this, because there's still the threat in our subconscious mind, the body develops, or mind and the body develop the third stage. So the first one was the trauma. The second are the emergency survival responses, like the amped up nervous system. And if all this is active for too long, then the third part, or the third stage, you could say, develops. And that is what I call the adada patterns, ADA, which basically means, or is a short, or stands for addiction, depression, anxiety, dissociation, and anger management problems. And the thing is that these patterns, as counterintuitive or as much as they suck, because they destroy our lives in the long run, the intent of your mind and body is actually a positive one, which is super counterintuitive, because we learn like, oh, these are so bad, the depression is bad, the anger management is bad, anxiety is bad, which is because they influence our lives in such a negative way in the long run. The thing is, one important thing to understand is that your mind and body have a positive intent behind them, because if we engage in these patterns and if we do them, at least in the very short term, your body switches a little bit, at least, into the more regenerative, more like switches, like shuts down the emergency mode in a way.
Yeah, gotcha.
And
if we're depressed, we can't go out to visit grandma, where we're going to feel like we're going to be attacked.
Safe, we stay at home. We don't do anything. If we're anxious,
a protective measure. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if we're anxious,
it's a protective measure going in way overdrive.
Exactly.
And, but yeah, you're saying the intention behind it is actually to help us. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is so counterintuitive, and unfortunately I hear almost nobody talking about it. But I think that's why I really like to talk about like healing the addiction instead of fighting it. Because of course we are kind of primed to like fight these bad things, but if we realize, okay, there is a positive intent, and if we show our subconscious mind that they're more efficient, more healthier, especially long term, more healthier ways of switching between the two modes in our subconscious and our nervous system, then it will do these new ones and actually prefer those. Because the thing is, that's also one of the questions from the poll. One of the questions in the poll was, why do I keep getting into zombie mode? And like, for those that don't know, the zombie mode basically is that you kind of just wake up after the fact, after you engage in PMO, and just realize, like, have the clarity of mind, like, what did I do? Or you kind of can still observe yourself, but and see what you're doing, but you can't interject. You can't stop yourself, basically. Like, something seems to be taking over in a way.
It's almost like a demon takes over. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is basically your subconscious mind being stuck in like the emergency mode for too long. And it says, like, okay, I'm taking over now. I need to do something to switch back, at least for a moment, into this other state. And then it just takes over, basically. And when I teach guys about the mind, you can think of your mind basically like a pyramid, and the very top, the very tiny top, is your conscious mind, and that's where everything you're aware of, and this is where also the little bit of willpower that we have, where it comes from, and all the rest, like the big rest of the pyramid, that's your subconscious mind, which is way older, way strong, and way more powerful.
So when people are fighting it, we're fighting addiction with just that top of the pyramid. It's just that first.
Exactly.
But the whole bottom isn't really getting healed. Yeah.
Exactly. And on top of that, exactly, like it's trying actually to help us, and like, why are you fighting me? What's wrong here? So we're stuck in this weird loop. And one quick and easy hands-on tip that I can give you right now, right away, and which is actually one of my favorite tips, is that more like just to spend time in nature, basically.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb is, the wilder the nature is, and the more time you spend in it, the better. But even if you just have like a park nearby, just walking there, like, or on your way to school or to work or something, even if the route takes you longer, take the route through the park, for example. Or instead of eating your lunch break up in the office, go downstairs into the park and eat it there. I mean, the weather is getting better right now, so there's really no real excuse.
Yeah.
And the research is showing that, which I found, which is extra interesting, especially when it comes to the porn addiction stuff, is that even teenagers that basically at this point were born with cell phones in their hands, like they grew up with this kind of stimulation. When they spend a lot of especially after 3 days, it shows a very, very interesting effects. When they spend certain time in wild, far out nature where there's very little stimulation, just like this low stimulation environment of nature, it shows that their brainwaves, they started out with high alert beta brainwaves, which is actually again our emergency mode, just for a very short time.
Yeah,
has become our new default. And just by being in nature and being far out in nature, they calm down all the way their brainwaves to alpha and even theta brainwaves.
wow.
And that is pretty astonishing, because if you want to train, or if you train meditation and you want to get into theta brainwave states, it takes you quite a while. Like that's not a beginner's thing.
Yeah.
And but nature does it for free. So that's one of my favorite tips to give, like, because it's relatively cheap, maybe even for free, and it has a very intense effect on your mind and brain, your mental state.
That's huge. Yeah. And just modern society, everything is designed to get us addicted now. Our phones. Yeah. I was just talking with a programmer working in AI, and he's saying how like Google, Facebook, their AIs are doubling in intelligence like every 3 months. So they know exactly what ad to serve you. They know Facebook knows YouTube knows exactly what to recommend you to get you hooked. Pornhub will know exactly the exact type of porn that will get you hooked. Our whole food, smartphones, everything is designed to just get us sucked into this chronic state of stress where we just need that next dopamine hit.
And that's
we're so disconnected from our ancestors who lived in nature all the time.
And that's why we need to build these kinds of communities where we learn about this stuff and practice this stuff and all these things. And I like
what you're doing is extremely important.
Same as you. And I just like that you said like disconnected from the way our ancestors lived, because one of the tenets also is to rewild yourself. Because the metaphor that I use for this is that imagine like a wild lion is being caught, put into a small cage, little sunlight, maybe even indoors, very like no movement because it's too small. Even like gets junk food as food and stuff. Like within a very short amount of time, that lion would be bloated, fat, look sick, and probably just be laying around depressed. And it's not about and the best way to heal it basically is just to put it back into nature, because it needs to be running around to hunt, to fight other lions, to be exposed to the elements and become stronger and because of it and all this stuff. And which is just a more straightforward way of healing yourself.
Yeah.
That is where we are supposed to live in a way. And I'm not saying like, we all should live in trees and hug trees and all this kind of stuff, but just knowing this, because of course there's really cool stuff happening thanks to technology and stuff as well.
Yeah.
What I'm very grateful for. But just knowing this, and every now and then, like maybe once a month, really spending some time in nature, like for a couple of days, maybe even.
Yeah. I feel like that's a need. Yeah, living in modern society.
For sure. And I would say like just if we have a little bit more time, we
still got another 45 minutes, an hour or so. Yeah.
Okay.
So
because especially when it comes to the coaching program, the main tenets that like there are basically three more main tenets in a way, and we start out with awareness, and that is the basic awareness about how addiction works. Like what is the entire system around addiction, like something like what we kind of got into here, or started to get into here, and just learning how things work, why it works, and changing our understanding about addiction. And the next part of awareness is then to not only understand, be aware of how addiction works, but also how you work, like all your internal processes, like with meditation techniques and stuff like this, journaling, whatever, and really becoming aware of the mental patterns, the emotional patterns, your behavioral patterns, because there's tons of stuff happening outside of our awareness, and you can only change what you're aware of.
Yeah.
And the next one then is the next tenet then after awareness is strength, because then after you've become aware of what's going on and what to do.
So when you're saying becoming aware of, are you talking about when there's an urge, becoming kind of aware of those sensations, or are you talking about when you're anxious about going to go see grandma, becoming aware of some chronic trauma or chronic CPTSD that's happened slowly over the years that puts your what exactly are you talking about when you say awareness?
Because this is like a very bird's eye view, so I'm basically talking about both.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like if we get once we get into the nitty gritty, then then there are differences. But right now it's generally the idea of developing a lot of awareness, whether it's the urge in the moment, aware of what's going on, or understanding like past your history, the trauma.
It's just everything. Yeah. Everything, becoming aware of our emotions and where they're coming. Okay.
Exactly. And after awareness comes the strength, because then after you understand this, after you see this more, then you build your reps, basically, meaning how to deal with it, how to work through it, and facing these inner pains, and how to generate the like seemingly endless amounts of inner willpower and all this kind of stuff. Reconnecting with your values, like really putting in the reps and becoming strong enough and skilled enough to face your inner demons, basically.
Yeah.
And after all of this is again like in the free course. This is just free information, basically.
Yeah.
But the last part, this is then when it comes to community, and that is something because I really like that it's easy to say that nowadays that society has become pretty sick at this point, and I like that we are building like healthy environments for guys to stay in. And the community aspect in this one is that you build this strong circle of guys that are on the same path as you, that understand where you're at, what you're working with, also can give you like this feedback, because it's oftentimes easier to see problems and patterns in other people than it is in yourself.
Definitely.
So that's also very big advantage when it comes to this.
Definitely.
But also, to be honest, I not only, like, at least my personal mission with this is that not only do we help the people, like the guys in the community, but we start changing the society as a whole, like one man at a time, basically. Because again, there's so many guys every single day falling into this trap over and over again, and this is not going to stop until we like change the entire paradigm which we're working.
Yeah.
And this community stuff with the new coaching program that I'm currently launching, like this is where the like this is where the coaching program comes in, basically, that I'm launching. Meaning this is where I really take a small group of guys. Currently, right now I'm just going to take on 10 guys and teach them very intensely for 6 weeks. And so they have really intense access to me. I teach them everything, take them all the way, explain everything, practice with them. That
community aspect is so important. So many porn addicts, and this is the way how I was for years and years, thinking I could do this on my own. Mm-hmm. I can handle this through willpower, but it was only until I decided to go to a therapist that I made massive healing and transformation. Exactly. And so, I always encourage social support and accountability, and that community is one of the most important things.
Exactly. And so that's basically what the main principles and the tenets of the community, the new coaching program, and everything are.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And can you go in more into the meditation aspect? What type of meditation do you recommend, and how often have you been doing that? I think that'll be inspiring. And let's say when you first started addressing your porn addiction, decided to handle this, what meditation techniques did you do exactly, and how much meditation did you do exactly, and what was that process?
The process basically is, or the system that I learned back then is called, by now it's called the Unified Mindfulness, because
Okay.
the people that developed it, they really wanted to understand, like, what do all meditation systems that have, because there are many different systems all over the planet that have
Yeah.
developed, and also and they wanted to see, like, what connects all of them, and so they broke it down to the very the most powerful and basic principles in a way. And so which also helped me actually get access to meditation for the first time, because I never really was, growing up at least, I never really got into meditation because it was so, the language was so flowery, and didn't really understand what they were talking about. But with this, it's very straightforward and very easily understandable, meaning that you have very clear definitions of what, where to put your awareness, like what categories do you put your processes, whether they are mental talk, whether they are emotional, feel in, feel out, where to how to categorize them, basically, so you can it becomes way easier to stay aware of everything.
Yeah.
And that's also where the power of it lies, basically, because it tries to, or the more you train it, the more you learn to redefine or to retrain your relationship with positive and very negative sensations, with very painful but also very positive, very powerful and uplifting emotions. Because usually what we do is we really, like, we want to hold on to all the positive ones, like, oh, I want more of this. And when we have emotions or thoughts or whatever that we deem negative, we want to push them away and push them into conscious and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And so you really learn those with three basic skills, which are the focus, concentration power, basically focus, meaning that you really learn where to stay focused on one certain category or a bunch of categories or processes that are going on. Then sensory clarity, meaning really having a very clear system of differentiating all the because what's going on, because for most people it's just like this kind of, especially when it comes to emotions and thoughts, it's all this kind of chaotic mess that is going on, and really helps you get clarity on this sensory clarity.
Yeah.
And the last one is the most important one for the actually working through an urge, is the equanimity. Like, we have, again, the concentration power, the sensory clarity, and the equanimity. Because once you've become very aware and focused on the process of an urge, for example, you then stay with it and let it tire itself out, basically. Because every sensation, no matter how intense, no matter how positive, no matter how negative, arises and has to come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
Meaning that even the most intense urge, maybe peak out at like a 10 out of 10 of intensity, but it's just basically the law of nature that it has to come down at some point.
Yeah.
And if you learn to stay with it and just, when it moves, let it move through your body where it moves, the the sensations, and let it become more intense when it wants to become more intense. Let it become smaller when it wants to become smaller, and just staying with it works through it, so that it doesn't leave any residue in your subconscious mind. You're not repressing it, because repressing simply means that you push it in your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Just stay with it,
and then it's going to come back later. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you just stay with it, you basically clean it out, because that's also one of the most important parts when it comes to the again, the accumulated trauma. That's also how you decrease the amount of trauma in your subconscious mind, because once you decrease the amount of trauma in your subconscious mind, it won't trigger the nervous system anymore, and the body doesn't need to engage in the Adada patterns, the addiction, the depression, and all this kind of stuff. So that where you get to the root of things and really, and
that's where the true healing in our unconscious happens. Yeah.
exactly.
So most of the urges you have, or you've had, 5-6 years ago, you would meditate when you got the urges.
And I wouldn't. I for the first year I went into full monk mode, meaning that nothing for a full entire year.
So no masturbation, no sex, no nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And also no peeking.
And no peeking. That's huge. Yeah.
And of course there would be super intense urges coming up, but I wouldn't allow myself to get distracted from them. I would just stay with them. Sometimes for like half an hour, if it took so long.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point you realize it goes out.
Yeah. And so were you meditating on average like an hour a day for that entire year?
I would say I used to meditate an hour every morning, and I most of the time do this still. And whenever an urge would hit, I would actually see this as an opportunity to train my skills.
Yeah.
And I would just sit down whenever it hits, like when it's in the evening or whenever during the day. Of course, sometimes you just can't do it. You're like in wherever you just can't do it in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I would, as often as possible, I would just sit with the urge and really work through it with the meditation techniques.
Awesome.
Because then I know it doesn't get accumulated.
Yeah. Awesome. And you feel it took about a year of consistently doing that to become quite healed, or how long do you feel like it took?
That's a good question. I would say for me personally, with working through the vast majority of urges that came up and going full monk mode, I would say like after roughly 9 months, it ceased to go down to the level where like urges would happen less and less and less and less. And if they happened, they were just like blips, like tiny blips, and would catch them very early and just be able to let them go. Like I would say like roughly 9 months.
Gotcha. Several of my clients, we talk about meditation, and then I'll check back in with them a week later, and they say, "Oh, I wanted to, but I didn't quite have the discipline." Even 10 minutes a day can be too hard for some people. It seems like maybe they don't quite understand its importance and benefits.
How fundamental it is. Yeah.
What would you tell people who have struggled with being disciplined about doing the meditation, and don't peter out?
Yeah. My suggestion would be what pushed me into realizing how powerful it is that I used it straight away on my biggest problems, like the fear, for example. And I used it in all kinds of things. I even used it on like mosquito bites, where you have this annoying itchy feeling on your skin. And I would just sit with it and try to observe it and stuff like this. And so over and over, with smaller things and with bigger things, I noticed how even stuff that usually I would think like I just have to scratch this, for example. But then I realized I really don't. And if it's just a tiny, a mosquito bite, you can train on this, for example. It's easy. Mm-hmm. And I just over and over I observed that it actually works, and that is the advice that I would give them, that just test it out on everything you think where it might be interesting, and just see that it works. Because if you viscerally experience that it's working, then you want to do it. Yeah. Then you can rely on it, and you really want to train it more and more, so you finally get out of this loop, this never-ending relapse loop that most guys are stuck in for way too long.
Yeah. It's rare to find someone who was addicted and is porn-free for 5+ years. Lots of people are struggling with this for years and years and years, and lots of people struggle to get past 14 days, 30 days. I
was lucky in the sense that I had all this training under my belt already. So that's why I realized so quickly that it's so powerful.
You got a jump start. You got a head start. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that was my saving grace in this.
Yeah. And so what inspired you to create this Brothers Around the Campfire? So it's a group, it's a course, and it's also a Discord
Exactly.
page.
Exactly. Like when
what inspired you to create this?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mention the Discord, but when you download the course, then you also get into the Discord group. What inspired me basically is two things. In a way, to be honest, I do see a lot of really bad advice out there, unfortunately, and not even only bad advice, but even counterproductive advice, oftentimes, which keeps guys even more in these high willpower relapse shame cycles and keeps them spinning in there. And so so I really feel the need for guys that have really good and solid advice and no gimmicky stuff or whatever, just to so that they have this reach as many people as possible. And the other thing, especially when it comes to the name, the Brothers Around the Campfire, is one of my favorite stories, actually, because a couple of years back, I used to work with a group of guys, which were, in a way, you could say fitness trainers, even though they wouldn't like the term if you call them that. But at the time, we were like pretty bonded group, and traveling through Germany, giving workshops and stuff like this.
Very cool.
And really, as a very spontaneous idea, we went to the Königssee, which is basically, it's in English, it's called like King's Lake in a way. And because we were passing it, or passing nearby it, passing it, and we thought, why not just go there for a couple nights, spend time in nature, camp outside, and just enjoy the time, because it's extremely beautiful. And it's one of the very few places that I've seen that the pictures on Google and Instagram and everything, when I saw them, when they showed them to me, it was like, okay, that's the filters and everything and the more contrast and blah blah blah. And when we get there, it's actually going to be not as beautiful, but the pictures actually look exactly like the reality.
Wow.
Or the real thing actually looks like the pictures. And so we got there, we were completely ill-prepared. We had very little camping gear because it was a spontaneous idea. We were exhausted because giving workshops is and living on the road is also very exhausting. But yeah, we spent 2 nights basically on the mountain. And by the second night, I remember that at this point we were pretty high up in the mountain, on a glade in the forest. Had a campfire, started a campfire, and just were very exhausted. Sat around the campfire, talked, ate, just had a good time basically. And one after another, the guys went to sleep, and I was sitting near the campfire, and I realized I was feeling extremely good. I didn't know that I could feel this good and happy. And so it actually, a thought popped into my mind, where I thought, maybe this is what people talk about when they say they feel fulfilled. And so I realized all this, or not realized at this point, but it just kind of was a starting point of realizing social interactions, strong groups or social connections with other people, spending time in nature, doing what you really love, and all these things that is truly meaningful and truly can be super fulfilling for you and healing, actually. Because if you feel so good, why do you need some other stimulation for it? I really I mean, back then I could have looked up something or whatever. You still have cell phone. You have cell phone perception everywhere in Germany, basically. So, but there was absolutely no need for it. And this is also the idea that I want to create these healthy environments for guys, where they can really grow stronger and and healthier. Because that's also one metaphor that I like to use when you, for example, let's say you take a seed of a tree or something, and you put the seed in like very barren desert soil where it's very little nutrients, very hard surface, no water, harsh weather, nobody taking care of it. Like even the most determined, most motivated seed is gonna wither and die eventually.
Yeah.
But if you take it and put it into healthy soil, nutrient dense soil, good water, someone taking care of it, like it has a chance to grow into a very strong and powerful tree. And that's how I see those communities that we're building here.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that sounds like it was it feels like for most people in their careers or their dreams that that was kind of the seed, that experience that you had at King Mountain or King Lake, where all the dots connect and you're like, wow, there's something really special about being here with this group of great people out in nature, away from technology, and you felt this big sense of fulfillment and peace. And
for the first time, actually, I think.
For the first time.
Yeah.
And
there was so much pain and so much anxiety all my life and it was a long road there, but it's totally worth it.
And then then it sounds like that planted this dream in you that you're like, this feels so good, I want to share this with other people. Other people need to get reconnected to this.
So that because we all know so many people that are so unhappy and so just have such a low quality of life, and it can like just hoping and trying to help people, as many as possible, to have these kinds of experiences as well.
Yeah.
Because we live anyways, so why not make it really good, make it really joyful and fun.
Yeah. I think this is huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for sharing everything, Phil. And for everyone interested, we just kind of scratched the surface on Phil's program. Make sure you go to the website, top link in the description. And Phil has spent years creating this program. It's complete for free. So I highly recommend you check out that link. Yeah, and Phil, do you have 10, 15 minutes to take some questions from the audience?
Sure, of course. Would love to.
Awesome. Yeah, so for everyone watching, we'll take some questions live. So feel free to shoot over some questions. Let's see. Does porn addiction stop people from orgasming in real life sex? Yeah, I was also curious. Have you been in any relationships now that you've overcome your porn addiction, Phil? So we'll address both of those.
Yeah. I have been since then, and I don't like. I'm not like not a semen retainer. Like when if I'm practicing to do this sometimes, but I don't beat myself up if it happens, or sometimes even want to do it.
Okay.
Like orgasming with a partner, and but also the connections I do have with women since then have become way more satisfying, way more fulfilling. And I would even say, like, when I came out of my or tried working out of my social anxiety thing, then I really got into like how to hook up girls, blah blah, all this kind of stuff. But looking back, I realized that even sleeping with a woman back then was not as satisfying as today, just being present with a woman and being and even talking to her. Like, I can enjoy this even more now than what I did going all the way basically back then. I was unable to really enjoy it actually. My own mind and all this kind of stuff.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
And what was the second part of the question?
And then does porn addiction stop people from orgasming in real life sex. And yeah, that's a very well known thing called PIED, porn induced erectile dysfunction, where people have trouble getting erections, people have trouble climaxing if that's their goal, people have trouble getting hard in the first place. Porn causes all sorts of sexual dysfunctions. Take away porn and take a break from masturbating for a while, 90 days, maybe 100, 120 days, and lots of those sexual dysfunctions should go away.
And
here's a good, or go ahead.
Here's an interesting one, like how to deal with urges lasting many hours and even days.
Yeah.
I think that's a two-part answer to this, because once you become more aware of what is going on, you realize that what we think lasts hours and even days is not, like, there are many pauses in between, but it's just like whenever it spikes, we really get into it. And so the more aware you become of what is going on, you will also become aware of the relaxed phases. Plus, when I notice that I have this, or when I have this like background hum of an urge, maybe, if you will, that is something that many people experience as well. That then I know that my subconscious mind is trying to show me something, trying to, like, okay, man, let's work through this. That's how I interpret this by now. Because maybe I've been so distracted or so focused on something else that I wasn't paying attention to it. But once I notice it and like, okay, now I really need to sit down. I really need to face this, work through this, and then it actually leaves. Even if it's very intense or has stuck with me for a long time. Like, you can work through this you take a big chunk out of it with a 20-minute meditation session maybe. And it might be that you work through this and you kind of feel like, oh, okay, it's gone, I feel calm now. Then you get up, you do your thing, and maybe after an hour or something, it comes back. But usually it doesn't come back as strong because you already took a chunk out of it. And then you just sit back down, work through it again, and you take another chunk out of it. And then it decreases more and more and more and more until it's gone.
Excellent answer. Yeah. I feel like lots of people, when they're having these big urges, they're not even really aware of what's going on. It takes courage and it takes some strength to be able to sit with it and be present with it and kind of embrace the suffering of it, but be present with it and process it. Yeah. For you, something I like to say is it takes embracing suffering, going through an urge. Like, it's hard. Is that your perspective as well?
In a way, I mean, this sounds so morbid and so like, oh, why the hell would I want to do this?
Yeah.
But the thing is that there is so much. Yeah, it sounds so morbid, but it's so freeing and lightens up your life in a way that you can handle these things. You can work through them, that they don't affect you as badly as you thought they affect you.
Yeah.
So it sounds morbid, but on the other side, there's lots of freedom, lots of happy feelings in a way, if you will.
So it's almost like, yeah, embrace the suffering, but see it as training and making you stronger. Yeah, and almost bring it on and like thank our unconscious mind for giving us that urge in a way, having gratitude towards it rather than fighting it.
And understanding the patterns and becoming stronger through it and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Freedom is on the other side of discipline. That's also very true.
And to the person who asked, fighting for several hours or days, also something I tell my clients is typically the first week or two, it's often just about stopping the bleeding. But, if you could go after 2 weeks or, the longer you go on this journey, over time, those urges should decrease in frequency and intensity, slowly over time, as long as you're working through them and doing your recovery work. So, there's lots of hope to be had. It could be challenging at first, but, you just got to do the work, especially for those first couple of weeks. Yeah, and with time, it gets easier, Now,
that's why it's so like having this kind of like tight-knit group of guys, really taking them through it in the first couple of weeks, and really like they can access me whenever, stuff like this.
It's
So
important for that long-term sustainable
very,
success.
very important phase. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
someone asked, like, how can someone overcome a fetish? And basically, it's the same answer again, meaning that the way you work through urges, it's the same also like this urge for this kind of fetish, and you decrease it. You always, the way, every time you sit with it, you work through it and realize you don't have to act on it. You're totally fine, and actually even feel better if you don't act on it. Then so you have a benefit, you have a reward even afterwards, because you feel calmer, you feel more relaxed, you feel like you're stronger than it, basically. This bit by bit also decreases, like on the one hand works down the accumulated pain again, and on the other hand reworks and rewires your brain as to think like, okay, I really don't need this. And it's like this realization that over and over again, that you really don't need this. You can be perfectly happy and even happier without it. And
Much happier. Yeah.
much happier, yeah. And you just have to show your brain and your mind over and over again, like that, by working through it and not doing it, and with these meditation techniques, and then it just decreases over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of porn, it's like a drug. When people are 14 first start looking at porn, just seeing a swimsuit model gives them a boner. But over time, just like a drug addict, we need more and more hits. So eventually people start looking at more intense porn or fall into this fetish to kind of scratch their itch. And so, but then forgive yourself for having that fetish. It's part of that just natural progression of an addiction. But then it requires you to do the work of feeling those emotions and processing those urges, doing the meditation and doing that deep inner recovery work to get back to our natural, healthy sexual state.
And also when talking about triggers and stuff like this, because I showed myself so many times over and over again that even if an intense urge arises and hits me, that I can, in a relaxed way, I don't have to like willpower through it, I don't have to muscle through it, in a relaxed way, can work through it, and then we even feel more relieved, feel lighter afterwards. I never really was afraid of triggers, and so I never really had to like make my life smaller in a way. Like when there was an evening with the guys where we just wanted to watch a movie or something, I didn't have to panic about like, oh, what if there's some scene in there that triggers me or something. I knew I could handle it, and this kind of inner strength and this kind of just maybe confidence in a way, and is also very helpful and calming for the nervous system. Because if you're constantly scared of triggers, what happens? Your nervous system is also on the lookout for threats and super amped up, so you're actually more likely to engage in the data patterns again. So there are many of these kinds of loops that people fall into, unfortunately.
Yeah. Great. Nicely said. I saw a question about edging, and is edging just as dangerous as a relapse? You want to share your thoughts on that, Phil?
As far as the research goes, it even shows that it's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Relapse, meaning that your brain is more engaged in more stimulation, more distraction, and more like just everything basically. And you drive down or drive those, how do you say this? And you just hone in these kinds of patterns even more intensely if you edge. So
yeah, and you prolong it. Yeah, I've had some clients edge for hours. Yeah, and it's just prolonging this state of high dopamine craving. Yeah, and definitely, yeah. So edging is very dangerous.
I like this one. Like, what are some healthy and relaxing things to do at home in addition to meditating and reading? There's great
question, Shadow. Yeah, that's a friend of mine.
Okay,
great to see you, Shadow.
I mean, for the one thing, like there are many things basically, and they're also like I like to how do you say it, to split them up into high quality and low quality techniques. I mean, for example, like let's say you're still in the beginning of your journey, and just vegging out in front of like a TV or something, or Netflix, certainly is not the best thing to do. But in the very beginning, might be a low quality way of doing something at least not as bad in a way. But if you want to do but he asks specifically about healthy things, exactly. He even mentions it, like cleaning your room. Like this is actually one of my main things that really calms me down, like gets my mind out of my gets my focus, my attention out of my mind. To just clean up my room, make everything more tidy, clean up the kitchen, clean up the bathroom, and you feel better afterwards. And but I also want to get at, like, what's the principle? Like, how do you know if something is healthy or not? And on the one hand, of course, the meditation stuff where you actually face it and you work through it. But on the other hand, also everything that keeps or that takes your focus and your attention out of your head, where you're spinning all the time when you're in the middle of an urge, where you like you're kind of fighting it, and you like all your attention is caught up in your mind and in your head. And if you have some activities like where you get your attention out of your head into your body, whether it's cleaning your room, where you have to watch your surroundings and how do I clean this, how do I make this, or even going out into nature again, working out, that's also, you really have to focus. You're more prone to focus on your physical body. That's why it works. Also, the cold shower, also very, very powerful way of just forcing your mind to focus on the outside sensation of cold. And yeah, even also what I really like, what I actually picked up after a while, is starting to work with my hands again. Working, like, for example, everything basically, the bed, my bed, my cupboard, my desk, and all the stuff that you see in the back. I built everything with my own hands. I'm working with wood and doing stuff like this. And not only does it give you this time where you have a very fulfilling and very satisfying low stimulation time when you build this, when you plan this, when you think how do I do this and stuff like this, but also afterwards. Like since I have built this, I really love sitting down to work, to get to work and stuff. Like the satisfaction has risen significantly, and they build my place the way I want it to look. So there's also a lot of
awesome
long-term satisfaction in this.
That's very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take one or two more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, question from Strange. You guys keep referring to meditations and inner work. Which one are you guys actually talking about? We're talking about both. Yeah, is there anything you want to more elaborate on that, Phil?
I mean, in a way, meditation is like the very raw and direct way of getting into contact with the inner process. I mean, of course, you can also do meditations focusing outward, like listening to the sounds, just watching your surroundings, and do it like this. But also, of course, like becoming really aware of all the inner processes going on. But of course, you can also, so you could say all inner work, all meditation is inner work. No, you can't. Wait. But also you can do inner work like journaling, for example, where you become aware of your thoughts that are chaotically running through your mind all day. But once you actually write them down, you're like, this is like, you start to see patterns. You start to see what's really going on in your mind. Or when you just talk with someone, for example, about like explaining to them how you feel, why you feel like this way, what you were thinking about it. And so this could also be even considered inner work.
Yeah, I know in the 12-step program, one process is go back in time and journal every single, whether traumatic experience or experience where someone hurt you, and also experiences where you hurt other people, and just get clear on them, and then forgive the people who hurt you in the past, or forgive yourself for things that you did in your past. That's very important inner work, journaling. But it works in tandem. It goes hand in hand with meditation, because through meditation, I've had memories rise up that I haven't thought about, or through meditation, sometimes I'll get a new perspective on something that's happened in my past. When I'm in that place where I'm feeling peaceful from within, suddenly I could see things from my past from a new perspective, or it's like seeing things from the past from a new brainwave or something. Yeah.
Really, like, also one thing, like, it's a tiny thing, but I really like that, for example, my childhood memories are way more vivid now, and I remember way more stuff from back then, because once all this chaotic chattering and cluttering calms down, like all these, you have more clarity on the thoughts that do come up, which could be old, very cool or fun memories from the past.
Yeah. I remember what actually, I had tried meditation a couple times, but I never quite got into it. But I remember this one time in 2016, I was reading some stuff on meditation, or reading a book that talked about meditation, and I decided for several days sit down and do 20 minutes of meditation. And I remember this one time, maybe after doing it for a week, about 20 minutes in, suddenly I started thinking about this childhood dog that I had, and that love I had for that childhood dog, and how I missed that childhood dog. And I even started to have a couple of tears in my eyes. Just this feeling of like love for this childhood dog. And I think I never fully processed that dog from 10 years later, having passed. I never really processed those emotions. They were in my unconscious. But suddenly I felt like very peaceful and very loving, very nostalgic about this childhood dog, and it felt good and fulfilling, like there was this healthy processing. And it was kind of sad, but it was this very healthy feeling. And I'd say ever since then, I was like, wow, I definitely feel, before I kind of meditated and didn't really feel much, but ever since that experience, it's like there is something extremely real about meditation, having that deep healing and processing of emotions. I feel like so many people probably have so much just junk in their unconscious that they've never processed, and they just repress. And and meditation allows us just to be present, and for things from the past, it creates the peaceful state of brainwave state, or something where our mind is like, hey, I'm ready to think about this, or emotionally experience these things from the past. And then once we actually experience them, it gets out of our unconscious mind, and then we're living so much more freely. We don't have these subconscious programs running the show anymore. That
drags us down usually.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing, or good thing that you said, was the you used to not feel this much, and I can totally relate to this. Like, it took me, like, I learned so much about how I work and why I work the way I do by realizing, like, and being by actually seeing how I'm reacting, how I'm feeling about in certain situations. And super important. Also, what you said about the dog is a good answer for the question about what are other relaxing and healthy things to do. It's actually, for example, with a dog, or with quality people, not like drama people, but good people that want the best for you. Spending time with them, having authentic connections, of like talking about what you really think, what you really believe, what your opinion is, what you're feeling, all these things. Talking about this kind of stuff, for example.
Those deep friendships and connections are so important, or a therapist, a coach.
Exactly.
But someone who truly has your best intentions, and someone trustworthy. I see someone saying, what is the link to the Discord? So if you go to your website, do you have the Discord there, or do you have to sign up to get access to the Discord, or someone's asking about that?
When you sign up for the free course, you get access to the free course immediately. You can go into everything right away. Plus, you get a like a link in the email. In the same email, you also have a link to the Discord, and then you join. You just follow this and then it's also, by the way, the best way to contact me, like whether it's for coaching, whether it's for anything. And
So I highly ever recommend everyone viewing now, and everyone who watches the replay of this, sign up for the free course. It's free, and check out the Discord. And Phil's been working on this program for a long time, and the proof is in the pudding. He's been free for almost 7 years. So I highly recommend people to check it out. And I remember Phil Phil first contacted me like a year and a half ago, telling me about this program he was working on, and then like 9 months later, you contact me again, and you're like, I reworked the whole program. I made it even deeper. Like you've been working on this for a long time, for years. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's high quality content that has worked for you and the people you've worked with.
Exactly.
Looks like we got a donation from Samir. Samir, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it. That means a lot. 100 SEKs. I'm not sure what an SEK is.
Me neither, to be honest.
I'm not sure that's okay. That's Swedish kroners, which comes out to about which looks like it comes out to about 12 US. So hey, really appreciate that. Samir, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name exactly, but means a lot. What's that?
Maybe Sama then, if it's Swedish. I don't know.
Samar?
Maybe.
Are we pronouncing your name right, Samar? But hey, that means a lot. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This has been really awesome, Phil. I feel like this definitely is going to change some lives. You're definitely inspiring me to meditate and be in nature more.
Nice.
And I really think you have a powerful and extremely effective philosophy that you've been building for a while. And I feel like lots of guys are, and some women can, of course, but porn addiction largely affects a male community, can extremely benefit from this. Yeah. So I wish you all the success with this. People, I think your program deserves to blow up, and you've been working on this for a long time, and it has the power to change lives. So I wish you all the best with it.
Really appreciate it, man. Okay.
Samir works fine too. Okay. So I'm guessing it's Samir. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Any final words, Phil? Any last thing you'd like to end on?
Only like if of course, as always, there are always questions and that haven't been addressed, or maybe things that you didn't really understand. Just contact me via Discord or via the homepage, and I'm happy to help. Very happy actually to help. Awesome.
Yeah, I've checked the Discord sometimes, and Phil is constantly responding to people, and so yeah, link at the top of the description. Check it out, and thanks for everyone who's tuned in. Thanks for everyone who's watching this afterwards. Give the video a thumbs up. We appreciate comments, and thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us, Phil, and wishing everyone all the best. Yeah, onwards and upwards.
You too, man.
Sweet. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.